was that?
I don't know. It sounded like a bird hit the window or something.
That wasn't a bird.
Why don't you go check it out, man?
It's your house.
Is it dead?
I don't know. You okay, Buttercup? It's Blossom, man.
Don't touch it. What you touch it for?
Just checking her out.
I'm okay.
Hey, man, you want some water?
Nope. Nope. We'll be fine. Sorry about that.
I wonder what made him do that, man.
We'll probably never know.
We've all had our favorite shows growing up. Well, maybe not the favorite show, but at least a favorite show, depending on the context in which that show was broadcast, so to speak. So, in light of that, if you were to ask me personally, what was my favorite show on Cartoon Network in that specific period of time in between 1998 and the early 2000s, I would have absolutely no qualms and no hesitation in telling you that my favorite show in those particular conditions was none other than, yes, you guessed it, Cow and Chicken. Of course I'm kidding. It's the Powerpuff Girls, Blossom, Commander and the Leader, Bubbles, she is the joy and the laughter, and Buttercup, the toughest fighter. Together they will protect, forever protect in fact, the most apocalypse-prone city in the world, the city of Townsville, and its well-meaning but often in peril and incredibly dumb citizens. Looking back at this show, with the rationale of an adult-minded adult, with as in me, an adult-minded adult, with very much established and deeply explored tastes when it comes to children's cartoons, it's easy to see why I enjoyed this show more than its contemporaries. Well, from a most superficial standpoint, its appeal was obvious. It was a complete experience as far as cartoons go. It was funny and engaging, it was action-packed and dramatic, it would also get very violent and dark. And goodness only knows how many randomly inserted prison rape jokes there were in then. No, I'm serious. There are prison rape jokes. Rewatch the show. I'm not joking. But that's not the point. It paved the way for many cartoons that we can enjoy today. It was one of those fundamental landmarks that pretty much established earlier on that you could have a show that wasn't just comedy, but it was also drama, and it was also occasionally tragic, and it wouldn't be afraid to tackle more serious and complicated issues.
I'm the professor.
Yeah, he made us in his laboratory by accident. Don't worry, Professor. I was an accident too.
As opposed to having shows that are just comedy or just non-comedy, so to speak. It was also an important landmark for, well, what we considered age or indeed gender-appropriate programming nowadays. Nowadays, we can enjoy a show like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, regardless of age or specific demographics. The Powerpuff Girls made that poignant statement in its own time. It did. Well, the very idea that 3 little girls gain superpowers and they get to fight bad guys and kick so much butt in doing so, while still remaining fully developed little girls, fully developed characters, and just what was already in its own right a bold statement about, well, how you write female characters in children's cartoon and media in general. In fact, if you recall the opening theme, the legendary opening theme to the show, when they tell us the origins over and over again about what was made to create the perfect little girls, and then the chemical X was added and they gained superpowers. What I find interesting is that in that opening, there seems to be always this subtle statement going on that they were meant to be the perfect little girls. They were meant to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be forced into the commonality, into the stereotype, into the common position that female characters and women in general are supposed to be in. And then, completely by accident, with the addition of the chemical X, they became so much more than that. So, to recap, they were meant to be the perfect little girls, but then, by accident, against their original design, they became superheroes. That I find it to be a subtle commentary against the predispositions of gender politics. Gender politics don't define who we are. It is ourselves. It is a series of circumstances like, well, accidents or even or our own choices in life and our personalities that define the whole of what we are. We are not the product of our genders. We are the product of what we want to be. And I find it interesting and subtle to be placed there at the beginning of every single episode of the legendary show. And if you think I'm reading too much into this, let me remind you that this show is well known for having subtle but also bold moments that explore the characters and their current position in life in several layers. In fact, I'd say that the best written moments in the show were those situations in which we see what their duties as superheroes do to them, their responsibilities, which is forcing them to grow up real quickly, versus the right to be children and have fun and even spend more quality time with their father, Professor Tonium. By the way, the first 10 minutes of the episode Powerpuff from season 3, it's the best thing ever. I'm seriously, just rewatch that episode. So good. And personally, I find those the best moments in the show. The moments in which the writing gets at its best, at its highest, in cleverness and passion. That is to say, this is still a show that features our heroines fighting giant kaiju Japanese style monsters coming from Monster Island, invading the city each and every week, and super villainous, hyper-intelligent monkeys like Mojo Jojo, that is. And of course, there is the devil himself, him, which is the devil himself. Come on, let's not dance around that. And that's great. This show is the complete package. It covers the full spectrum of the emotional spectrum, the full spectrum. what am I saying? It covers all the ground you want to cover in a show you enjoy. Like I said, it gets emotional, it gets comedic, it gets everything you want to be. And also the fact that it doesn't really have a overarching narrative, overarching storyline. That each and every episode is its own narrative, self-contained story altogether. It means that this show basically can and might as well be going on forever. Of course, the downside to that is that if you have a show going on for too long, it might turn like SpongeBob and go through seasonal rot and lose passion and lose sight of what it once was and become really unpleasant and as unpleasant as an experience for both those who are working on it and those who are watching it. So I think it was a right choice for this show to stop at the right time, so to speak. Especially if you consider that Powerpuff Girls, unlike other shows from my childhood, like Animaniacs, Darkwing Duck, Tiny Toons Adventure, Old Courage the Cowardly Dog, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, insert show you grew up with here. The funny thing is that unlike all those shows, Powerpuff Girls never actually truly went away. I mean, once those shows were over, they were over. Maybe there were some reruns, but then they all disappeared. Whereas with the Powerpuff Girls, they stayed with us. There was a 10th anniversary special in 2008, which was all animated in Flash, and it was absolutely great. And then there was a 15th anniversary special animated in CGI in 2014, which was really underwhelming. And then, apparently, the show is going to get its own reboot in 2016. Which has me very excited. And also, apparently, there were comics also going on. Published official publications by IDW, which I should take a look into it. So this show never truly went away. It's like it took a vacation and occasionally it phoned us and reminded us that it still exists. So that was probably the best way to do this, to keep the memory of the show fresh, to keep it timeless being the key word here, but at the same time not to overstate its welcome like SpongeBob did. So now when the show will, or hopefully will, reboot itself next year, it'll be like meeting an old friend all over again and catching up with the memories. The Powerpuff Girls is the true definition of timelessness, if you think about it. The characters are still funny nowadays as they were 16 years ago. The stories tackle themes and thematics and messages that are honestly good for everyone, no matter their generation or their place of origin, so to speak. And the design of the three main heroines is genius. It's one of those designs that seems deceptively simple at first, but they manage to commune a deeply emotional connectivity with its audience. It makes them easy to relate with. And their personalities help that too. So we have great characters, generally well-written episodes. Of course, there are a few, well, not good ones, but that's to be expected. All seasons were solid, consistently solid. There wasn't a season that was bad, another was good. They were all generally good, with some rotten apples in between them. Like every season of every show ever made. So, once again, it was a good idea to stop the show when it was at the height of its popularity. Also, making a film. The film should be a video in its own right. And then there were all the inspirations, the very well implemented sources that inspired the show, seen in the show. From anime to other cartoons to superhero comic books, of course, to to, like I said, the Japanese giant monster movies, obviously, to Silver Age comics, and all well implemented in the mythos and the setting and the presentation of the show, which really works at a fundamental level, at a subconscious level. I didn't even know half of the things that were referenced in the show when I was young, but I still enjoyed it at a subconscious level because it was that appealing. And speaking of appealing, going back to the opening theme of the show, when the Powerpuff Girls go to beat down their entire gallery of rogues, well, speaking of nuances, that's obviously a reference to the animated opening to the original 1960s Batman show. You know, when Batman and Robin are towards their own gallery of rogues. Of course, I didn't know that at the time because I never actually watched Batman, that Batman at least, when I was a child. It was way before my time, after all. But ironically enough, the Powerpuff Girls opening theme itself is also the very definition of timelessness. So there you go. It's a great show overall.